Andrew's all set? Okay, so we're going to call the meeting to order and do a roll call first. Mr. Thurston is here, Mr. Bolton, Mr. Dutel, and by the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for blessing us with your presence. Now that you're on a higher plane, will you come back and visit us?
Of course.
Chris Buckley and Sharon, of course, is here. So Tara's going to join us tonight, and while we're waiting for her, we must have got these minutes out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got minutes from February 2nd. Take a look at those. Zoning amendments and warrant articles. Anyone have any comments on those minutes of February 2nd?
I have a couple. On the second page, under new business, the third bullet point, it starts, Steve Whitman approves. The second sentence, he likes that her updates include actionable items in other departments so the public understands more officials are involved to act. For some reason, that's...
It must be how. There's an active modifier.
So the public understands how officials are involved.
It's bad grammar too. Are required to act, or I don't know.
And I was wondering if, and you could restructure the whole clause or just drop to act.
I'll fix it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an awkward sentence. I noticed that too. So. Okay.
And I had one other. On the same page, several bullet points down, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the bottom. The board expressed they would like to see more development in the agricultural zone. To me, that sounds like commercial development, and I don't ever remember.
I think that was in reference to Tenny Mountain Highway.
It was, yeah.
The western part of Tenny Mountain Highway, where it's, along that strip. I think that was what that was in reference to.
Yeah.
Maybe we could be specific.
Do you want to quantify it with that?
Yeah.
The western region of Tenny Mountain Highway or area?
That was, I think that was a part of the discussion of change, trying to get that zoning changed to commercial development.
Sure.
Good catch on that. Other comments on the minutes? I'd take a motion to accept the minutes if there's no additional comments on these.
You're good.
Yep.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Second?
Second.
Okay, if there's no objections, we're going to accept the minutes from
As amended.
February 2nd.
Yep.
February 16th. You probably should check this one pretty carefully, given the number of lawyers that were present at that meeting.
Yes, there were.
I have actually a question about, not minutes directly, but on page 2, about halfway down, MacGyver said he would like the Conservation Commission to review this application. Is that a normal part of the process? Sharon?
Can be.
So that's coming back to us in April, right?
Theoretically, but I haven't received any updates on the,
So when that comes back, does the Conservation Commission get notified, or
they'll get a copy of it.
they'll get a copy
It's
of it?
back, but,
Okay.
yeah.
And I think if at that meeting, we decided that we didn't,
Oh,
and it even said that further down, that we thought it was premature to get the Conservation Commission involved.
Until the new plan showed up,
Yeah.
right,
right?
um,
right, because you're changing the configuration of the lot, so. You'd want to see what the final layout was.
So I didn't bring it up at the meeting, at our meeting, just because I didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, we're anticipating the 20th, and I hope so, but they could very well postpone again, because they're still, I still haven't received anything, and this is February 16th, so it's a month. May take longer.
So does the Conservation Commission automatically get copies of all site plan reviews?
Depends what it is, if there's
Like
wetlands.
more or less, yes.
Yeah, if there's wetlands involved.
Relevant, yeah, okay. Any,
But I mean, we do have, depends on the scope, we do
Right,
have the
right,
rec here,
but-
so.
yeah,
And I wouldn't bring this up just because it may be a non-issue, and rather than get hackles up and people,
Exactly,
it's,
exactly,
it just seemed,
premature.
if this moves forward and the wetlands are still involved, then it would probably be a good idea to
then you
get.
might take it back to the rest of the.
Yeah, they could
group.
take
Okay.
a look at it.
All right. Any other questions or comments on these minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Okay, the minutes
And
are,
can I give a shout out to who's ever Jasaya Girona? She did an awesome, especially on these, were very complicated.
Yeah, she
She did a
does,
great job.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, she does a good job. And then I do a first edit for you, so hopefully it's somewhat intelligible by the time you get it. Hey, Tara.
Tara, welcome.
Okay.
So we have two things up tonight. One is to talk to Tara, and the other one is to look at a study that was completed in 2006 for the South Main Street, and
It's all one conversation.
I think it might be, if it's okay with you. If it's okay with you, maybe we should go ahead and look at this first.
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
This is, remember, it was a feasibility study. So this is all prelim. That's
Right,
what
so-
this whole thing was about. It wasn't a final plan. It just had very rudimentary and elementary oversight. And as I said, the other caveat to remember is that these cost figures are 11 years old.
Right. But even so, even at that
Oh, yeah,
time.
no, I'm just saying, there's not a lot of detail that we'll need eventually. Oh, didn't I give you one? I thought I did, I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Is there a copy of that for Tara also?
Yeah, she has one.
is there a small one of this in here, or is this?
No,
No.
no, that's
I
it.
wonder if somebody could take a picture of it with their phone and
Why not?
We can try it.
Well, if everybody's okay with this, I think we just kind of gather around and look at this and go through it. And
Yeah.
Frank's going to join
I'd
us.
love to go and take love somebody to email me a copy of it.
Okay, we'll definitely.
I mean, I can try. It's just, it's an unusual size.
Even if you did it in pieces, it helps me.
I could try the landscape mode on my iPhone.
And I think
That would be
we,
great. Because the question was, how much of this do you want to incorporate as a master plan?
I think that's the question. And it just struck me that, here we are 11 years later, and that there's still, the same issues are still in front of us that were addressed in this $25,000 study. So it makes sense to review what was done then and incorporate it.
Work.
And not lose track of all the work that was done at that time.
And just if somebody could email me a picture of this, then that helps me kind of remember what you were talking about when I'm trying to write about it.
And I think maybe to guide the discussion, we can just kind of go through the paperwork here and kind of talk about as it goes. So they're looking at travel lane restrictions, insufficient parking, drainage deficiencies, water and sewer capacities, fully defined right-of-way limits. That has not come up I don't believe, in
No,
our
that's okay.
focus groups, and environmental concerns in the Green Street corridor, legacy issues with the railroad and oil tanks and so on and so forth. So they wanted to obviously increase parking, encourage economic development and so forth. Okay, so if we go down to 2.0 on page 2-1, we're talking about reconstruction of existing sections of Green Street beginning in the vicinity of the courthouse. So, Frank, maybe you've got the best graph on this one. Can you just kind of walk us through?
Courthouse is over here. So, yeah. This is, like I say, a concept about flowing, traffic flow, and we were trying to utilize Green Street as a second Main Street way to help with the traffic flow. So part of this was some of these bump outs were to help with the alignment, make sure that Main Street is in a parallel street right now.
So all these,
Yeah, it's got, especially at the old Plymouth Inn site, it's a 5-foot
It's
offset.
narrow, the travel base,
Oh,
substandard.
And is that to get, so there's no parking on Main Street anymore, or South Main Street, it's all moved?
No, I think there were certain places where we were trying to get pedestrian cross areas, and there are certain parts,
Are these bump outs?
yes. It's somewhat
So you
like
lose
what they
your
did
parking, right.
in
Concord, yeah.
So the high traffic flow areas that are naturally being used now, but don't have anything designed for pedestrian ways, they were trying to formalize them into getting that volume of pedestrians across there.
but it does look like the parking has gone away though.
In that
At this
area, it
point,
would be.
right? So they've gone with parking, pulling off the Main Street.
Well, and this is the parking garage, or what?
That's what I was, where is the proposed, is that the,
Well,
There's a number of different ones. I think
Yeah,
this is the 3 or 4
this one,
story garage.
this one here
Oh, okay.
has the great potential is to have 2 or 3, 4 floor parking garage, because you've already got one down one level, and then you could put another one in and be at street level, and then without too much ramp, you could get a third one. That's one possibility. The Plymouth Inn site was another one that there was an old road up behind from Gould Terrace, the bank, the New Hampshire Bank building. When they did their parking lot, they gave a right-of-way to the town to continue that all the way in the back up right behind Fox Block and come out by the library.
So is this an existing road or just a right-of-way at this point in time? Today?
Right now, it's just a proposed, there's nothing.
So it's just
There is a right-of-way, I'd have to see their drawing. Because there's a lot, this drawing has got a lot of stuff on it, and I don't know if it's proposed or it's actual.
Gould Terrace has already been
Yeah,
closed
that's
off,
correct.
and that's, so
Let's see, when they did that parking, and then if you look at all the buildings, the houses on this street, the front doors are all facing Main Street,
yeah.
not facing the street. Okay? And then I went and did a project and got a hold of all the landowners. There's 36 landowners from this bank up to Fox Block. And I went and talked to each one of them about coordinating the program to use the Plymouth Inn site. Street level would be commercial. I wanted it to be a conference center or a Chamber of Commerce place. And then the upper floors and the whole back area would be all parking, and trying to address the parking to each one of these businesses. And
behind.
all of the apartments that are rented, so I did an inventory as to the number of people that are in these buildings and a number of vehicles, and they would all fit in that parking area, and then it would help expand give a lot of parking to Ross Teachman in the Fox Block. The Northway Bank wanted to put an expansion second floor on it, and they needed that parking. But no one person, the bank or any of these businesses, could financially do this. So this would be a public-private partnership. And then you get into the RSAs dealing with parking systems that are done by the district parking system. And you get into a lot of administrative and more money and everything else. So it got to where people just couldn't get their minds around it.
So this basically, this upper tier that sits behind all these commercial buildings, we think there's still a right-of-way that
Yes.
goes behind
There
there?
is.
So
Yes.
it's still possible?
I don't know, because we haven't looked at this in depth, if,
That was when they did, when they closed off Gould Terrace, one of the rationale and trying to coordinate that with the town was that they recognized the potential for this parking, and so the bank gave the town a physical right-of-way. Should they ever decide in the future to do this project, they would already be there.
we'd have to double check about ownership and everything, because that's really changed up there. It's a lot of student housing, it's a lot of conversion.
Yeah.
So it's pretty dense with parking already
You'd have
and
to,
stuff.
like I'd have to do what I did. You can do it because it's so old.
And
But-
would there be like stairways down?
Yes, well, the Plymouth Inn site represents a very good, in fact, the kids do use it now, the people that live on the street, they cut down that slope, all right? And one of our problems is it's not safe drainage. You get a water flow comes down, that's Webster Terrace, the name of that street is Webster Terrace. And so, but it allows that avenue of a large volume of pedestrian traffic coming down off of the house to a single family.
So that would be down through here?
Yes.
It's a gateway
Yeah.
to Main
And that
Street.
was part of, the other thing was the walkability, transportation systems of pedestrians, bicycles, cars.
This was never presented to DOT as a TE project. I know Green Street was,
Right.
but this,
Yeah, there's a Green Street plan in 1995 that addressed that issue, but this was another separate one.
What's currently here? In the 240 space parking lot.
it's hard to.
Driscoll Hannigan.
Here's a quick check.
Well, here's the monkey.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to see if
Well, there was a proposal,
Yeah, okay.
there was a proposal to do a parking, the other potential was right by 35 Main Street, which we just came in with a new ordinance that required residential housing had to provide parking, where right now, village commercial zone has no requirement for parking, but we put in it where if you are gonna do housing, you must provide parking. And so Kevin Mays and the theater at 35 Main Street were trying to work together to see if they can't do something to put some more parking in there, because it'd be.
this would be a two-level parking.
Yes,
That must be the
correct.
part, yeah,
Yes, 2-level.
240 spaces.
One would be, you come off the
Street
street,
level, and then down.
and the other one come in from Green Street.
Sounds great.
Or Railroad Square Street, not Green Street. The other issue we're having is, there are 4 zones here. You've got agricultural zone, village commercial zone, multifamily zone, and then civic institution. So when you're trying to do
It's kind of, yeah, it's the
simple thing
intersection
like
of.
parking,
Yeah.
it's a brain grant. The other part is when you're trying to get this through a tax structure, you have to inventory the value of your village commercial zone. Unfortunately, by not having all of this on Green Street in the village commercial zone, we can't benefit by the value of all those existing businesses.
Was this going to involve a TIF district?
That was that was part of the discussion on how we could try to get a public-private partnership.
Yeah, I wondered about the funding.
But that TIF district, that was hard enough for professionals to get their minds around the bottom line of it.
Tax increment financing, it's the tax credits and.
So, and the problem is, this is 50 years, these zone boundaries is 1961. So like, it really needs to be updated, reviewed, and just acknowledge that Green Street no longer represents what we would classify as agricultural potential. You're not gonna
Right, I mean,
farm.
if this were a town initiative, I mean, the zoning, there's wiggle room in the zoning.
Yeah, well,
Well, we're talking about trying to find, something this coming year that we can bite off and deal with on the zoning side successfully. I think this is probably the easiest one.
there's one that would be the easiest one right now that would be doable, reasonable now that we have been given the property of the skateboard park, and that way from Route 3 to the backside, right up to the other side of the railroad track, which provides the potential to go to the DOT to ask for a railroad crossing and get Green Street connected to Route 3.
So is this dotted line, this is the current
dirt road,
dirt
yeah.
road?
And here's like the skateboard park.
The skateboard park, so this is the current dirt road that runs down here, right?
Railroad Square.
And the other project is this Plymouth Insight roll, the 5-foot offset. So just taking that back, and then the Webster Terrace, it'd be part of your drainage plan, safe pedestrian walkway, which they're all doing now.
Yeah, and the town owns this, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. And I've talked to the printers, and then I talked to the Smiths when they owned this. And I talked to Ross Deachman, because a lot of this needs to environmental stabilization, and a lot of these trees are what they call trees, they're just grown up, and now they're really grown up, and that's something we need to evaluate. And that'd be all part of that, And the other thing is, when presenting it, majority of citizens look at this and it means nothing to them, and they can't get their minds around the value of what all this effort would be done by professionals behind the scene. So in order to get people to say, yeah, we'd like to see this happen, this one little project here, we'd like to see this other one, and that's to simplify and then show pictures of what we have now and what we propose.
Now, we'd have to work heavily in conjunction with DOT on this,
Yeah.
because it's their street.
Yep. those take all-
So, I mean, that would have to be under one of their programs, which could be done. Also, just kind of for peripheral criteria, water and sewer Plymouth Village Water and Sewer is looking to do a total rebuild of their water and sewer facilities they're possibly starting in 2018. So we want to see how that plays out. Probably play out fine, and then the design could come after, but there could, it's premature to think we'd be doing anything shovels in the ground that era, and then of course there's Northern Pass, so.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
God
We-
forbid
I mean-
something happen, we can test.
Planning
them
is
to
super
put
to
it in there.
anticipate, but
There's your
we've got,
funding source.
yeah.
Well, the other thing too is getting a concept plan, and I say concept, the concepts of connecting Route 3 to Green Street, the concept of this mitigation of this Plymouth Insight. So then you go from concept to design plan, proposed design, and then you get into permit design, okay? And this gets you through sequentially down to the financial plan and shovel ready.
I think you'd probably be looking at some serious phasing
Yeah,
It's
correct.
at least
Oh,
two,
yes.
at least two, if not three,
Yes.
which is fine.
But it would be nice, it'd be nice to, identify, not just from a phase point of view, but from a small chunks point of view, to say, can
Oh,
we do
yeah.
this
Yeah.
in the context of a
Right,
larger idea?
right,
and
you've
have
got to
it still
start,
stand
you've
alone,
got to
even
start
if-
with an overall,
even if
exactly.
overall-
And I've been down to Concord,
Fails.
I've talked to the people in DES when we were trying to mitigate this, talk about connecting Route 3 to Green Street. And so if you go, that whole area needs environmental mitigation and stabilization because of the water that comes across there. And obviously it was done back in 1762 and they didn't
Oil
have.
tanks down here.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, there's horrendous.
But if you talk, when I talk to those
Stuff.
people at DES and say, we would like to start to do an inventory of that area to do an environmental mitigation, they're very receptive to, working with you. So now they understand, we are actively, the group in Plymouth is actively trying to address the issue. And you don't get all involved, and we're not talking a multi-million-dollar project, we're just talking about having that program profiled so that, if some monies came through and the state has going to be rebuilding Route 3, and it'd be a shame to have them spend money to do this, when if we had our list of things we'd like to do, we could put in our monies that we were gonna work in that same area. So,
Yeah,
it's just a matter.
you're looking at several different funding sources for
Yes,
this, so
correct.
you'd have to break it out.
So this is a proposed, none of this exists, right? All the way up until,
Well, it kind of exists in here, right?
Yeah, for the most part, Alex Ray owns either the road in fee, or the dirt road in fee, or the underlying, there's easements on top of it, because we've talked to him a little bit from time to time. Not Green Street, where are you? I can't really do this upside down. Railroad Square, not today, I
down
can't.
this,
Yeah, so this doesn't
That's-
exist.
No, it's fine.
The-
I know, I
this-
can't even, well, I do, but otherwise.
I gotta admit that,
Roundabout's throwing
when you
me off.
described this initially, I thought it was coming into Parker, which I'm thinking, how the hell
No,
are they gonna do
no.
that? But this
But
makes a lot
Parker
of
comes
sense.
to it.
This
Parker's
was,
like down here.
But wasn't that what you were talking
no,
about?
my idea, I had recommended that.
Oh, that was, okay.
That was my recommendation, because I talked to the landowners up here. If you walk up there, look at the terrain, there's a ridge here. So when you're talking grade point between cut and fill to get Parker to connect into this, the terrain provides that opportunity. And obviously now it's political, trying to work with the landowners to say, hey, and actually the residents of Parker Street have to make a decision, because the town is going to have to make a decision to close that off, because the entrance right now is getting to the point that that rock ledge is crumbling, and the state's gonna have to say, hey, you've got an issue here.
Frank, how critical was this roundabout to this whole discussion before, as a roundabout? Because there are some misaligned, I mean, the sight distance from Route 3 South is hideous coming up there.
Correct.
Warren Street, there's a lot of misalignment. Was that considered critical at the time as a roundabout, or just
I think it was
a rebuild of the
a
existing?
way of providing a connection of 4 points, and
But mitigating safety, or
Correct.
just, or more ease of access?
Well, you do have line of sight issues coming up right here.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
also in Parker too. I mean, that would,
Yeah.
if we could eliminate that, that would be,
Yes.
good, but.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with how, I know that was the heyday of roundabouts, because it was brand new design.
Correct.
So I just didn't know if that was kind of just a sexy thing, or if it really was to address some
the other
issues.
thing was my part, and of course I deal with the North American Institute Classification System for Economic Development. And the real estate that we have left here, basically of village commercial zone, would be a terminus at Parker Street. And so this land that's left, you're talking only square feet of property. You don't have acres to, there's not gonna be a big box store in here. So whatever is put in here, we want to attract the type of businesses that would come in and would fit into this area within our list of uses within our zoning ordinance, you know, the profile. So that was the part of the plan that I was involved to try to say, okay, what we have left after we do the infrastructure and stabilize the environment and do whatever is necessary to make this new stuff work, what is left for a viability economic development.
I have one question regarding, so you're still having this one way behind the senior center. I mean, was there any thought to maybe cutting in the bank?
Yes.
And making it two-way?
Yes, correct. And that was a case of, I talked to the new owner, and of course, he's spent a lot of money upgrading this existing structure, and I talked to him about the garage, the multi-level garage. The building itself is worth a second floor for executive rooms, whatever. And of course, cutting in that bank, you'd have to go in and take out all those trees and put in a reinforced retaining wall. You know, so that would provide us a two-way. And actually, the second benefit is we would get more sunlight on the roof of that senior center, because between the pine needles and no sun, the serviceability of that roof deteriorates. And also this provides, when we have parades or we have issues here of traffic flow, this would provide a safety. This was part of the problem of safety. We would have a means of redirecting traffic around.
That's the Board of Selectmen and Paul and myself, Bill can attest to this, have been looking at that route as a de facto bypass, emergency bypass.
Yeah.
Except when it's flooding, but you know what I mean. I mean, we're so
Correct.
bottlenecked.
Yeah, but you look at the functions of our existing businesses that we have and the things that we do in the town. We have our parades. We have the university having a graduation and other high pedestrian traffic flow where the police block off the traffic and try to go detours. And this was one of those means of addressing that and recognizing that we don't really have a way to get that traffic flow over in a safe manner, because it's most all of the structure is old railroad property.
Where is the extent of the floodplain? Like, where does it flood to?
Oh, it's,
I mean, down
Yeah.
there, but
You've got-
nothing
it's
back
pretty-
yeah,
here.
the overlay's not here, but it's like pretty far back.
It's pretty, yeah.
But, so some of this would be in danger of being underwater?
Well, flooded to a certain extent.
Depending on what year of flood you're
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, that's floodplain. It's all
So-
pretty much floodplain. Down
Regarding
one.
this, like the salt shed,
Mm-hmm, yeah.
that, you know, the current salt shed hasn't been flooded in like the past 61 years at least. You know, so it hasn't reached that high, and that's pretty low.
The,
So you can identify.
the other, of course, the other thing that impacts that is the sandbar down by the golf course is what that bottleneck turn, and when the ice backs up there, I live right up on that hill there, and you can see the, you know, it backs it up, and that's why we have our issues.
So I have a question, kind of go back to the parking for a second. So this plan, you know, obviously pulls all the parking off of the South Main Street. I don't think the merchants are gonna like that too much, are they?
Well, is there parking along between the bump outs, or is that,
Well, no,
Oh, sorry.
no, they're not. Like, the bump outs are just to control the
it
vehicle
says
speed.
parking,
Well, this, right here.
There's
Where's this at? Oh, okay, so it does have parking.
Yeah, you still, but the pump house
You're
would
gonna
be,
lose on-street
lose
parking.
yeah,
spaces.
Yes.
But not on this
I mean,
side.
Theoretically, if this comes in, not concurrently, but, you know, if that was there and, you know, this was here and that was there, you know, it's gonna accommodate a lot more parking.
Right, I'm just thinking about, okay, we're gonna suggest to people what we wanna do first. So, first, we're gonna fix South Main Street by taking half the parking away and making it a little bit wider, right? That's the first thing we're gonna do.
Yeah,
And then we're gonna
people-
put these other, right, people go bananas, right?
well, I have to turn it around. In my program for parking, my main effort was the business owner and the employees. And if we can get and start doing an inventory. We had done the inventory, but it's old now. And then go around and look at places that we could go in and make it a parking space that's designated for the business owner and employee. Your customer parking system obviously would have a lot more spaces available.
Yeah, a lot of the Green Street area parking is all sewed up because it's privately owned.
That was.
So that's
yeah.
a consideration.
Yeah. And this is why you have to write this stuff down, and then you write, of course, I went and looked up all the federal, state, local laws, rules, regulations, codes, and standards to it. And then you have to say, okay, going to the abutters, the landowners, the business owners, and say, hey, we would like to facilitate and assist you having easy access parking to your business. And of course, we'd like to do it. We don't want a lot of, I think this came out in the master plan meetings, we didn't want the concrete box parking garage. People wanted
I mean,
this.
Concord really is a good example. Is everybody familiar with the redo that they've had?
Yes,
Yeah,
and it's
pretty
beautiful.
amazing.
It's
Of
great.
course, it cost $1 billion and it took.
I'll tell you what, we have the same piece of real estate as Concord.
Yeah, it's just.
Railroad, Rockledge. How they got their $6 million garage is the business owners all got together and said, hey, we have a parking problem, not of our own making, and we can't solve it ourselves. And as a group went to the state and they got a $6 million garage. I was trying to do the same program for Plymouth, but people decided we didn't really have a parking problem, and so we don't get any money. You're not going to get any assistance if everybody says they like what they have the way they have it.
So here's kind of a general plan question. So let's say that we wanted to do something like this for the future of Plymouth. How many years should we allot to having this come to fruition?
It's up to Tara.
10,
5 for design
yeah,
and funding, and then you
So
could
10
have limitations, so I would say
total.
5 to
Think
10.
that
Yeah.
that's enough?
10.
10, I think, is
Yeah.
from soup to nuts, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I would.
Doesn't need to be more than 10, so, but you'd have to stay right on it to get it to 10, right?
Well, the other thing is, you need to have it where it's visibly viable, because when I talk about the Green Street program in 1995 to the business people, they go, what, Green Street? Where? Who?
Where's
What?"
Green Street?
Yeah,
right?
So there's only a few of us that have the paper product and all the designs and went through all the meetings.
Could we put something like this up in, you know how you'll see that sometimes in a window, usually it'll be a model of something, but just that, a little bit of information that people can actually look at.
A good one is, we were working with Mark Younger at UPS, of course he's passed, but the new, I could talk to the new owners. Of course, they're going to doing a renovation now with a whole new store interior, but that's a good one because everybody's walking by that. And so if we could.
But you wanna, excuse me, I always, I have to be Debbie Downer, because that's what I get paid to do. We just want to make sure that when you roll it out, I mean, you, no.
You can share, okay?
It is. No, but we've got to make sure that, the Board of Selectmen's on, timing is everything. So we don't want to be promising something or hyping it up before it's even really in any sort of preliminary design. I mean, yes, you have to have a hook.
But it's a way to
We've got
get
2 board
feedback
members
on
here
it.
right now,
You
so
only have
one use
the
one.
one.
Right, but you don't have a quorum.
You only have the one?
No, I made another one. You could probably take that with you.
I would color in the one
The
that you
big-
put up in the window as well.
I would like to
What
say
we
that
did there,
one of
yeah,
the problems
yeah.
that we've had with these projects in the
Nobody
past is
No, I know.
we don't get the political will of the people,
Right.
the citizens themselves. And people look at this, and this just overloads their cognitive capacity. And the first thing they ask you, how much it's going to cost? And then, of course, well, how are you going to engineer here, and how are you going to engineer that? Well, I turned my stuff around and said, listen, we're proposing to improve the Main Street right at the Plymouth Inn site has 5-foot differential. We want to cut it back. Would you like to see that happen? Give them a picture so that they can wrap their minds around it and say, oh, wow, yeah, that would look nice. Well, good. We don't need you to engineer this and solve all the technical problems. We just need your vote. We just need your support to say, hey, we like what you're doing here. We like this plan, and we see the value of this to how we live and work in the town of Plymouth.
The major design entity right now is anything that is part of Route 3, and we work with the Transportation Advisory Committee, which Neil is a member of, with NCC to get this on DOT's radar, because it would either be, depending on the particulars, a 10-year program plan, which we're just getting into that cycle now, so we missed
You
it.
just missed it.
Well, we're working on Highland Street, you know, doing that right now. Or transportation enhancement, or maybe some safety stuff, but we've really got to have buy-in with DOT, who are
Yeah.
being wonderful. We fixing Foster Street.
Yeah.
That's going out to bid, Highland Street, hopefully. So this would be very feasible, but we've got to work with them, because if we do something that looks great and feels great and is not allowable under their jurisdiction, so we really got to be.
That's
on
part of
point.
that, you know, you go from concept plan to
Right.
design proposal
Right, no, you
plan
refine
to
it, you
permitting.
do refine
know,
it,
you're
but
doing-
like, you know, widen, you know, 5-foot differential absolutely needs to be there, but they need to be on board with that.
Oh,
because
sure.
It's their road.
Yeah,
Well,
that's-
first step, I mean, I think the reason you're
Oh,
here
yeah,
about
you've got it
tonight was,
is to
do you want to put a
quantify
master
it,
plan?
exactly.
And that's your
Right.
opportunity to
Right, you have
get
to quantify it.
feedback.
Is
right?
Main Street and
You need
Concord,
to have a
Route
public
3?
hearing and.
Yes.
Hey, we're all set, we have precedent set.
Yeah.
We want our Route 3 fixed.
Yeah, you'll say, we have no more money. No, but I mean, it
Okay, so
needs to be
what's the
a-
best way to get these ideas and stuff into the master plan, I guess? That's,
I would say that if you take the basic ones that we had from the Green Street plan, which is the Route 3 Green Street connection,
is that a separate study?
Mhm.
yes.
There was a TE project, but at the time, that was when the economic downturn was. It was when I first got here, 2007, and we couldn't cough up, we just didn't have the 20% match.
That's somewhere, all those
Yeah,
documents
yeah.
are somewhere, right?
So, and then take the 3 items that are left, okay? First, the town had bought the 26 acres to move our highway department off of Green Street. And then the other, this one here is where you connect, you're helping the state, because the state's multi-use trail stops here at the highway department, and between there and Parker Street is the bottleneck,
The
okay?
state's multi-use trail?
Hmm?
What, I guess I'm.
The state multi-use trail was part of the bridge design, and that's gone all the way up to the northern part of the state. And it's part of our, the amphitheater. It comes along the coast there, along the
Oh,
edge.
proposed?
No, it's constructed.
It is?
Yeah.
Where does it go north?
Is it in
of-
Holderness?
And then it's
Yes,
on,
sir.
so it's, the plan it goes all the way up the west side of the Penny to Campton.
Okay.
And so it stops down by the amphitheater, it stops right by that highway department shed. And of course, from there to there is Parker Street is where we're having issues. So looking, I would say, to do a quick overview of the Green Street plan of those 3 items as potential things we would consider. And then this one here would be what I call a low dollar but immediate safety, and would help with any proposed use of the Plymouth Insight in the future. So we would get not only a safety improvement, we would have the pedestrian way plus the sidewalk realignment. And that's, I think, part of the state's upgrading of Route 3, which has been put off now 15, 20 years. So, and then anything else of the environmental mitigation, because now that we own the skateboard park, and that would be an area that we would be making a connection of Route 3 coming along that skateboard park. I don't know the layout, because right now it comes at a 45-degree angle and the state doesn't, have a 90. But that should be one of the priorities. So we would start with the whole list and say, like we did the Green State plan, we had 10 or 11 items on it. And we accomplished 9. So, and that's the other thing is,
Well, yeah, we want to quantify our premise. I mean, just generally speaking, it's like traffic safety or whatever, pedestrian accessibility is over here, and access and redevelopment of the Green Street area. I mean, that, and then you can get your individual pieces
Right.
underneath. So that's how I
so
would break it down.
you're doing what I call environmental mitigation and enhancement, which would be include your drainage and the extreme slopes and issues from the South Main Street area. And then your interconnection, and then any others, like this one here, the Depot Street, Senior Center. It's a good one because we only provide that alternative safety of having traffic flow. You're actually, right now, would be helping the shelf life of the roof of that because it's not getting sun and it gets the pine needles and leaves on it. And
So how would the select board like to see this approached?
Well, I've been working with the planning board to incorporate it in the master plan.
So that would be the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to cite it in the master plan, because that creates the raison d'etre.
Well,
I would look at what's existing in the master plan as to what it already addresses, and then enhance what's there, and say that this focus of our efforts for a overview of projects that would best serve the citizens, that would also be enhancing our safety and our environment, and potential economic development of South Main Street area.
We should, I still think sometime we should take a field trip to Littleton. It's close. Well, it's equidistant from
Littleton and Concord.
here, yeah.
Yeah.
But both, maybe. Seriously.
Can't be that
Keene,
bad.
well, we gotta go to Keene at some point, but right. But Littleton's done it, essentially this on a little bit, well, it's not even that much of a smaller scale. It's about almost the same. And of course, they've been able to build on their improvements, that pedestrian bridge across the Ammonoosuc, and, and so you're leveraging funding. Yeah, so
And
that's a good example.
so like one of the, by the amphitheater, of course, and that was the area where the highway department is to put a structure that could be parking and have second floor would be the office for Parks and Recs. So if we have more activity, we were trying to do a riverfront project, and you'd want to have some supervisory capability, people that represent the town and the people who maintain that area on site, public restrooms, and then obviously enlarge the parking. So I would look at whatever plans, programs, projects we've already had in the past to see which ones we still think have value, potential, to put into a new plan.
What do you think, Tara? Where are we getting these kind of ideas incorporated? How would we go about doing that?
In the master plan.
We already wrote the transportation section, right? Of
Yeah, it's all a draft.
the, yeah.
I mean, I'll work with Sharon to write this in.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is,
not quite
yeah,
get
this
all
is
the
as
ins
much
and outs of it,
economic
but-
development as it is transportation. I mean, transportation is the means to the economic.
Yeah, don't worry,
development,
don't
so.
think about the plan as sections.
Yeah.
I think DOT sooner than later, though. I think even before you
Yeah,
have a public hearing and adopt the
Yeah,
master
this is a
plan,
huge-
because
huge undertaking for them.
they plow that, right?
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, so bump
and
outs,
they
that's
push
been
back on bump
problematic.
outs, yeah.
See, I didn't want to be Debbie. You could be Debbie
Said
Downer.
that was my job, but they don't like plowing.
They're dealing with
DOT.
Concord though.
The other transportation, and I've been down to talk to them because I was trying to we were trying to get more pedestrian crosswalks across the railroad tracks. And one of our biggest one is down Chase Street. That was closed off by these people that own the business building there, who are all about I, me, and mine rather than we, us, and ours. Because there were businesses that put money into it, trying to put in stairwells. So the businesses here, when they see the potential of having better pedestrian flow of Main Street, it's to their benefit. And Rand's, Peterman's, Young, all those, man, they all put money into it, said, hey, yeah, let's get it done. But you need to go to the Railroad Division of Transportation, because obviously you need to get a permit, and it needs to be engineered and constructed by their design to meet their...
Well, the Bureau of Rail and Transit, they're aware of that crossing. It's on their list.
Yeah.
And it's flagged. As I said, we're right in the midst of the project going out to bid for Foster Street, because that crossing is skewed, which causes
Right.
back-grade problems anyway. So, you know, that could be something we could get right in the hopper there.
See that
again.
Green Street plan of 95, the railroad crossing at the senior center was supposed to be totally redone. Because the way the slope came down and where people had to walk, plus the drainage, was a mismatch of people doing things that weren't coordinated. And so that was supposed to be part of the courthouse building, was that they were going to redo that. And of course it got dropped, I don't know, for cost or whatever. But that's obviously a high traffic flow, pedestrian and vehicle. And the sidewalks of Green Street, we had the courthouse structure. Of course, their authority to act to construct ends at their boundary line. But you'll notice if you drive down there, the sidewalk is the no man's land. It kind of leaves you right out there with nothing. And it would help the flow of the drainage for the boat ramp that goes down to the PEMI and continue on. So that needs to be a mini project. It doesn't have to be a massive thing, but we need to continue the sidewalks there, and then along with designing that, you're addressing the drainage and the safety of pedestrian vehicle interface.
And that does flood down there, as we know, so that would be a serious design consideration. That's why the amphitheater, as you know, is
Yeah.
concrete.
Yeah. So, you know, I would, as far as the master plan would be to enhance the commercial viability, economic development, and use of South Main Street area through the process of upgrading the transportation infrastructure of South Main Street, which includes sidewalks, pedestrians, multi-use trail, and roadway.
Great. This is kind of cool. Who wants to stand on the table and take a picture of it?
Or hold it up.
I'll get,
Oh, you
So
can do
just
that
hold
too.
it hold it to the different corners and
well, wait, what we should do is
float there.
floor or tape to the wall, because it's a white background.
Hold it against the wall.
Or, well, on the table under the lights without everybody making shadows might do it
There's
too.
too many directors around there.
Too proactive. I still think the wall's better. I'll go get
But
some
there's no
tape.
light on it.
Well, we can,
The wall's dark.
Could lay it on that table. Better lighting. You can stand on
window.
table and take a picture.
You can do it in sections too.
Or put it on the
Sorry.
floor.
I think we should have
Yeah.
a committee determine the proper layout.
well, if we could do, Tara said she could,
Just
she could
sections
do
is
3
fine.
sections, you know.
But this works. It does keep going.
Oh, that's too simple.
Okay, now Jim.
Now all the
what's the
shadow
shadows?
people.
Yeah, shadow people, children of the corn need to move away. Oh, God. Yeah.
That's the good one.
Email
It's gonna be upside down.
That's okay. I can deal with that.
Selfie group.
Now, where's your north arrow? You need an arrow that's pointing north.
It's right there.
Real bad shadow.
We'll just make it an 8. Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll get that to you.
Oh, beautiful.
Let's do
I
this.
can make it an 8 if
Just
you
to clear.
want.
If we have to do another one, we'll do
Yeah.
another one.
No, I think it's retroactive.
No, I meant the extension goes to the end of June.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Meant-
I thought you meant the actual contract date.
No.
Oh. We could change that to an 8. It's-
Well, we may have to.
Well, think about
I
it.
don't think this will be the last one then.
No.
Let's do this.
Okay,
And
sure,
then
we can
have to do
yeah.
another one in June. It's not-
Should we put it back on the table back, or are we good? Try it on the
Picture
table.
in the window.
Don't walk all over it.
Yeah.
The easiest, you know, I don't know if you've dealt with this in the
Copies are
past.
$10 a piece.
You know those just architectural models?
No, somebody,
So
don't
of
forget to email me that.
what we
No,
could
I'll
do,
pick, well, do you have,
those changes and then
email?
different
Okay.
phases like highlighted on the changed model. So you have two, so you can see what we're doing now. And
Sure.
in the window of UPS, I think
Yeah.
a few of them, you put them in different places. People like myself included, like a visual that's simple.
And that one is definitely
Well, yeah.
complex, and but if that was colored, it might be a little bit
Oh,
better,
yeah.
but a model is awesome. If-
Well, we could get more copies. When we, I just didn't want us drawing all over it tonight
Yeah.
because they are $10 a pop and,
Well, I was just talking to Chris about the idea of having a model to get townspeople on board, the community on board.
you mean a real architectural model?
I agree, that's the way to do
Easy,
it.
but
Yeah.
Or just a 3D model, like, in fact, a pictorial thing.
Yeah.
Like Northern Pass has for,
Such good resources with the college.
yeah, no, that's what.
I was gonna say, we should
That's
get
what we do, we lean on
June
them.
and Whitman on this case and get them
Only contribution?
churning.
benefits everyone.
I shepherded a lot of interns, so now it's time for payback.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like a
that's-
quid pro quo.
That's a give and take. That's community.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Okay, so you guys are gonna work on incorporating these concepts, and what else do we have with you tonight, Tara? Do you have some stuff?
I have, some more recommendations for you. We had a contract that expires this month. And I just gave Sharon an extension to June. It'd be a good goal.
Yeah.
Seems like we've had a lot of delays, so if you help it.
Well,
Really will, but-
The last master plan update took 8 years, I think, or something, from
Yeah.
stem
No,
to
I
stern,
mean,
so
I-
we're
I-
cranking along.
I try not to, well, I wouldn't call it cranking along. I think we've been working on it 2 years, but,
Yeah, well,
but I like to let it take the time it takes because my goal is to make sure that there's consensus at the end. You know, that John and Bill and, are meeting in the middle. Just to pick on you a bit, but.
So we're polar?
yin and yang.
Just, and I feel like we've done that by taking our time. So what I hinted out is a draft update of historic resources and natural resources from your plan based on the roundtable discussion that we had on this. We went if you were at that, you know, we went through the recommendations and just chewed through them, and this is, and we took notes, so I've incorporated the notes. This is my first take on that, and I plugged in who might work on the different ones, who might be responsible. So this would be the opportunity to say, yeah, that looks good enough for a draft, and maybe priorities, what might be short term, medium term, long term, ongoing. A lot of them are ongoing. And if we get to that, at the round table, we didn't really do anything with the arts piece, the kind of cultural piece. So I brought the copy of that section of your current plan as it is, if we have a chance to talk about that. If not, I'm going to hand it out to have you bring back to the next meeting with your thoughts. I think everybody was tired. It was getting towards the end of the round table.
Yeah,
everybody.
I think that, yeah.
It was just kind of like, yeah, they all look good.
Yeah.
But when I look at it, well, how can there be, 2 pages of natural resources and then there's like 5 arts goals? So something's just kind of out of whack in there. So, anyway.
Well, I'm just going to offer an opinion on that. I think, my perception only as an opinion, that perhaps the town relies on the university to shepherd the arts, the art installations, it's hopefully a symbiotic relationship, but maybe that's where it kind of fell off the radar.
Well, what it struck me that where I see the plan unbalanced, where there's a lot more detailed recommendations on one thing than another, I'm assuming that interest group was just more active last time the plan was done. And,
Maybe.
And that happens, and that's natural, but I think we should just take another look at the arts and recreation piece, and I'll hand that out when we get to this. But. So you see at the top, historic, natural, and cultural. You don't have cultural yet. That's still from the old plan. That's what I'm trying to say. So you have historic and natural, and my attempt for the first draft. You want to go through them one at a time?
Sure.
How do you want to do that, Steve?
I think
Just
we're-
work through this one at a time.
Again, this is a combination of language you have in there now and what I think I heard people say at the round
The
table.
focus group, yeah.
Some is from the survey, too, where I made some modifications.
Can I just make this sort of a general comment? And unfortunately, even though I taught writing, sometimes my terminology of parts of speech, but most of this is like work collaboratively, preserve scenic land, include, and then when you get to the second page, natural heritage policies, number 2, manage the town's natural resources, and then the structure changes to ensuring, minimizing, guiding. And I think it sounds better if it's ensure that the removal, instead of using the ing.
Oh, the 10.
You know, because one thing, all of a sudden, the structure of those sentences change.
Yeah, you had different committees.
Yeah.
With these different things, so you had
Okay.
some wildly different styles. You could sort of see that sometimes on the original.
But it's managed the
Implementation.
town's, but actually, I modified that.
Oh, you did that one?
It's, I mean, yeah, in essence, that's in the other plan, but I reworded the beginning of it to say manage the town's natural resources sustainably So then those had to be,
Oh, I see. Okay, and then the bullet points are, because there's a colon there, and then, okay, by doing that, then you're ensuring,
it had a list, I modified it based on the round table and the
Okay.
survey, but I also modified the beginning to the sustainable one. So I'm not sure how else that could be.
yeah, I see what you did there, and
So
that's,
they're all trying to be
Yeah.
action verbs at the beginning.
yep.
Manage, prevent. So if we go back to the first page. Let's get everybody through the historic resources section of 1 through 7. And then everybody's read those and we'll keep going.
I just have a question. Is it, is the emphasis with collaboration with PSU because of their historic preservation curriculum? Or just in general?
Just
I'm
in general.
Okay, no, I'm just curious. Because I know it wasn't in place with the prior edition of this.
No,
but-
and it's something that's come up at all the meetings, that the town really isn't leveraging the opportunity.
No, it's very true. I was just curious about the origin.
Right, it wasn't in the last one.
Okay. The 1990 NCC Historic Resource Study.
I know nothing.
Is that even still around? Was that a Deb?
I wasn't there yet.
No, I know, I was,
Oh,
just
yeah.
barely. So I'm just barely, so I'm trying to remember,
Did you guys use Lisa too?
Lisa,
I can't remember her last name. We shared historic preservation specialist with some other RPCs. Right around that time.
no, it was
I think there was
90,
money for doing
92, 93 for me, so I'm just trying to remember.
That's around when we had Lisa.
And my one comment on conservation easements, we should probably try to pull in the Pammy Baker Land Trust to be part of that process, since they seem to be the driving force.
You're right, for easements, yeah. Because Deb Noble was doing some big inventory of historic architectural stuff in the North Country, and this was, part of the service area, so I just can't remember. That was a long time ago.
There's a lot of things we don't have anymore because of moving.
Yeah. And then when, digital then, I mean, everything was dot matrix, it was awful.
Yeah. Well, those historic resource inventories, the photographs were taped on the pages. I remember those were glued on.
Yep.
They were great, detailed inventories. You would have only just had the original.
Right.
So, any comments on the historic resources, 1 through 7 here?
Do you want comments on time frame as well at this point, or?
Once everybody's all set with these, let's go through the time frame
Okay.
and take a quick and dirty shot at that.
Okay. Number 6, future grant opportunities specific to historic preservation. CIP match money. Or just anything in general. I'm just curious.
See that
Number
definitely not
6?
with me yet. I see number 6.
include historic preservation item in the CIP to ensure that a match, fiscal match, is available for future grant opportunities for, specifically focused on historic preservation, or anything with a historic aspect, was that? Okay.
Yeah, and that was in, last time, I thought it was a good
Mhm.
recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that item in the budget now, do we? If I'd known, I would have made a motion the other night.
It would have been struck down.
I would have been struck down mercilessly by the moderator.
It's true, the rules don't allow that.
And I wasn't sure what the right verb was gonna be to update that recommendation on the New Hampshire Heritage Trail, because it sounded like nothing had been done on it for a long time, and
No, that's a good word.
Or revisit. Refresh or revisit. If you were having, if,
I guess the trail is there, but
It's kind of getting a little obscure. But it doesn't have a lot of marketing. There is a new Chamber of Commerce. We finally saw
Yeah.
who they were. They came to town meeting, and unfortunately,
Hysterical.
day late, dollar short, asking for an appropriation, and they hadn't submitted the paperwork. But at least they're cohesive enough now so that maybe, we can start tasking them with something. So,
The question I would have asked if they were able to request funding was, or do they also, has she approached other towns in,
yeah, I just,
In the same manner.
that was bizarre.
yeah, a little bizarre, but.
I mean, I sort of felt bad for her because it was, the whole transition thing was such chaos that, I think they're just coming out of the abyss on that one.
so let's take a shot at putting some timeframes in there. Maybe first draft, we'll have other shots at it, but
Well, it seems to me that most of these are kind of 1 through 6 anyway, and 1 through 6 seem to be projects that are probably going to take 2 years to complete. I mean, especially if students are involved, because they're going to get a little bit done one year and a little bit more done the next year, or maybe finish the next year.
Well, it depends which students. If it's PSU, it's a semester-based thing, which we could certainly reach out for internship things. I know we've worked with June, him and Rowan,
All right.
that aspect from another angle, from a planning angle. The historic preservation, either a master's degree or the certificate is graduate level, so you may get a little more continuity in that. So,
oh yeah, one person could make it a project for 2 years.
yeah. Yep. I mean, at some point, I could reach out to the chairman of that department. I have a relationship with her, so, I mean, we haven't started this kind of outreach, but we know each other, so.
That would be good to, before
yeah.
you go to public hearing with this, to
Oh,
bounce
yeah.
it off
Yeah,
them, right?
yeah.
But
See if
so,
there's an opportunity for collaboration.
right. So I think what we used for the format that you seem to like in the transportation was the short, medium, long, or ongoing.
Mm.
Would be-
So medium would be 2 years.
No, I think medium was longer than
Yeah,
that.
5.
2 years was the shorter end, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, short changes depending on the context,
Mm.
right?
Well, your prior plan had actual years in it. so we
Right,
don't wanna
and that
go
was
there.
a really ambitious.
We were just trying to get away from the actual years. And
Right,
say,
right, right. No, okay.
it's a way to prioritize too,
Right.
right? Short term, well, we want to tackle these first, either because it's low hanging fruit or it's very important.
Yeah, I guess from that point of view, I think 1 through 4, or at least 1 through 3 are kind of medium, to me, those are medium-term projects. Number 4 and 5 are a little bit different. I'm not sure how 5,
Five's ongoing.
how it functions.
It's
It's
I
ongoing.
think that's an ongoing, yeah.
It's ongoing, yeah.
Yeah, and
but-
that's the Conservation Commission is really starting to tackle conservation easements right now, so we're just sort of navigating our way through that. But that's, negotiation with landowners and, public
Right.
awareness.
Anything that's more of a policy is you're gonna put ongoing next to versus a project,
Right.
right? So 4 should be an easy thing. That's,
Yeah.
you make a recommendation, you go to town meeting.
How about number 6?
Well, let's,
Are we still on 4? Oh,
Old Hebron is a scenic town road.
well, that's not what you guys told me before. You said you actually don't have any scenic roads. Everybody calls that a scenic road.
No, I think that particular one, I'll double check, but I think that particular one is a
Well, it says
designated
pursuant to
town
RSA 231, we
scenic
indeed
road.
went the state route and designated it. Okay.
It was,
You'll
I
check on that because
You
that's
know what?
not
I'm
what you
gonna-
said before.
didn't, maybe it's because it's, you're looking for state or town scenic designation.
There only is town.
Yeah.
Oh, scenic byway, well,
We're not talking about scenic by.
no, okay, so you don't want that included, no, Old Hebron's, actually, I think I've got it on my,
what's the procedure for designating a scenic road?
you have to pass it at the town
Yeah, it goes to town meeting after public hearing.
I think it is, actually.
You guys did not say that.
Changed
My
our
notes
minds.
were very clear that that the town didn't have any, but that everybody called that one.
Who said it wasn't?
See, I don't write who
names.
said what,
Because
that's what I wrote.
I think I bumped up against it, but not to second guess Sharon when she comes up. But because of the trees up there, we couldn't cut them down. And then I found out, well, yeah, you could cut them down.
You
But
just
once
have
they're
to have
really close to
just have to do a notice. There's nothing you can't do.
right.
It's just that you have to do notice and get public input. You or the utility company to cut trees over a certain size or move a stone wall.
Those 2 trees that
Yeah.
are right next, yeah.
They're kind of dinged up and
So, well, if that one already is, then these other 2 were the ones that you talked about adding. Anyway, so it's either gonna say all 3 or it's gonna say 2, like Old Hebron.
Does a scenic road have to have a dirt surface?
No.
Texas Hill. That's not scenic. Don't you live on Texas Hill?
Yeah.
I was teasing
This
you.
is
but-
why
Parts of-
this
parts of-
project takes so long.
Our understand, but if
2
that,
steps forward.
number 4 seems like something we could just do. I mean, other than
Yeah.
the actual getting it designated to decide which ones should be designated,
Yeah.
I mean,
So let's say short, even before Sharon gets back. Short term.
Already wrote it down.
And that she's doing it.
Yeah, just pick them.
Short.
Wait for the public uproar.
I think Reservoir should be a scenic road too.
I think so.
we must have crossed wires, because this 1993, it was enacted for Old Hebron.
Oh, good.
It's already on the books, yeah.
Wow, you found that.
It's because it was tacked to the bulletin board. This came up a couple of years ago for some reason, so. It
So
says,
we reworded to say in addition to.
yeah, so just FYI, Old Hebron Road is duly designated, has been, extends from the intersection with Texas Hill Road, so-called, to the intersection with Bell Road, so-called, and the Pike Hill Road, so-called, 1993. So we do have, I believe, just this one on the books.
And while you were getting that, they decided you're gonna work on those other two.
Of course they did.
In
They
the
waited
short
till I
term.
left the room. Which other two?
Bell and Bell.
So are we down to number 6 now? Yes.
Design scenic road. Well, they are, but whatever.
Do you,
Oh, preserve.
number 6 was in the other plan, and the round table left it. Is it realistic? I don't know of a town that does this. With other high priority budget items.
I don't think it would fly
I don't
at all.
either.
I mean, because there's so
mean,
many
I
other
didn't-
priorities.
I didn't want to second guess what came out of the round table. This is the time to have that conversation, but I don't see it as fit in the spirit of the plan, which is trying to be kind of fiscally responsible.
I would be in favor of sending that away.
I mean, the Conservation Commission is given, it's not a lot of money, but
Nobody-
allotment, if you will, to try to stockpile a little money if an easement comes up.
Yeah, but I don't see it going in the CIP.
No,
Just-
there's,
And there was a feeling that everybody agreed that your last plan had a lot of things that were not realistic. and
Mhm.
Let's do that weeding, so this plan does that.
Everybody else okay?
I'd be psyched
Getting
if
rid of
that-
So
some-
number 6, we're talking about striking.
it's not realistic.
I think you have consensus on that. We love consensus.
And then is number 7 long-term?
Who has the ownership of that? I'm not even sure. It's such an anomaly. I'm not that familiar with it. It was in place when I got here, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of institutional memory on it.
Yeah, it's, I don't know.
So is this what Frank was talking about? The New Hampshire Heritage Trail?
No, I don't think so, Frank. This is something else.
So is this you drive in your car from one place to another?
No, it's just a meandering, there's a brochure downstairs, but there's no real attribution. So I don't know who put the brochure up.
And I think it's it goes like the length of the
It
state.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
The initiative was statewide, but
So maybe we should be saying raise awareness.
But it's grown up and markers are gone and I'm not
Right,
sure.
right.
The first was really like revitalized or.
Well, maybe what we should do is make sure that the state is still supporting the heritage, like
at that.
other towns are still supporting this thing, it still exists. Because the idea was you were gonna be able to walk the length of the state.
Then you know how that goes after a while.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
Right?
Two things. The Heritage Trail I helped lay out, and that was an internal project that started around Main Street, went down parallel to the Baker River, certain key points of heritage of the town, as opposed to the statewide trail system, which is going through the town of Plymouth, not out of the Plymouth. So there's two separate projects.
Is there a committee, a natural heritage trail committee that maintains and?
At the time, that was something that happened right around 2000, because our first cultural plan was 2001. for a town.
And there used to be little like markers, like with a
Correct.
number or something?
And we had a
Are
little
those still
square
there?
that you could put your phone on, and it would
Yeah.
give talking points on it. Oh, it hasn't been maintained. So a lot of that stuff needs to be.
So it seems to me if this is something that we're gonna have and we're gonna maintain, we need some ownership to maintain it.
So is that for the 250th or what? It's not the same as the one that was for the 250th, because the 250th had, QR code,
Right.
things and.
No, 250th was well, they did part of it that was
Yeah,
already
okay.
established there. But I don't know how much they included as far as what was along the Baker River. Now, at the town meeting, there was people, that and the Conservation Commission we were talking about this cluster development program for the university of having our recreation and outside activities and making use of our natural heritage that we have, environment and uniqueness of Plymouth, as part of a course and something that we would have as a tourist, ecotourism for the town of Plymouth. And it was a case of, we actually need to do an inventory of that and then say, okay, which part of this program would be something that would attract people to come to Plymouth to see. And so it was a general idea.
Sharon, are we out?
Yeah, there was one and it's gone. I'll try to look.
So getting back to Chris, to your comment about taking ownership of this process, I mean, so it's a physical thing that has to be maintained, right?
Yeah, and this historical society was involved. Also, PSU had, placed plaques around as well.
Do you remember what the time frame was?
Well, all I remember is like from the 250th. I was involved with the PSU, deal, and also they had all this
Oh, you mean
poster
the,
sessions and-
yeah.
But I'm hearing you say it's two different trails.
Yeah.
Correct.
That,
That's right.
and they don't overlap.
No, there are certain components that were of historical value that was part of the 250th that overlapped because obviously it was something to view. But it was a separate trail system.
Yeah, the Historical Society, I would think, would have hopefully the institutional memory on
Yeah.
the previous.
But so when you were out, he was saying that the Plymouth Heritage Trail was not the New Hampshire Heritage.
I thought
Right,
it was
that's-
a section of it, but could have been based on it.
I remember at one point being on the gardening crew, and we put up these little 4x4s so we could attach those.
Yeah,
QR codes.
yeah, ID
And
markers.
somewhere in Langdon Park, down by the baker,
Yes.
somewhere on other place on campus. So maybe we need to, somehow get someone either to take ownership or,
So one entity needs to take ownership and make the other people help. So is that a
Right.
town, is that a town department? Is that Parks and Rec? Is that?
I don't think so. I think it's a private
Historical
initiative.
Society, probably.
identify an entity to take ownership of the, because it seems like that would be the first thing we'd have to
And
do.
just say Heritage Trail maybe, rather than Plymouth section of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Trail.
Yeah, I just-
say,
I think we need to find out the backstory on it a little bit first. And then that'll help us find out the who and what and where.
As far as time frame, this is gonna be an ongoing thing, right? Because it's
What's that?
it's gotta be up,
long.
it's gonna be kept up, right?
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
gonna be ongoing, it's not gonna be,
I think we're,
Could explore potential too? I mean, that includes the backstory and
yeah, I
finding
think,
a group. and-
just from my experience here, going into my, like, 8th year here, so that's getting to be a long time. I think some of the initiators of some of this stuff, or some of the institutional memory is starting, I think we need to re-identify or reacquaint with some of this stuff.
So would that wording make sense for now? Explore the potential to?
Yeah, I just think I think, you lose it if
Something.
there's a lot of very elderly people that did a lot of, now very elderly people that, 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, and some of them have passed. So,
Well, we got, Lisa Lindari is not elderly, and if we can hit her
going
up.
into it.
Yeah, Lisa Lindari did a lot of this,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
she's not old.
No, but I mean, no,
So-
like,
If we could put someone down, I'd volunteer Lisa Lindari as far as a contact.
as far as this, but you know what I'm saying about the institutional memory, just as an average thing, I don't think there's a lot of knowledge. The knowledge is getting more and more vague, I think. just seeing that.
So it might be an important time to do this.
Yes, yes, you don't
Before the
lose
knowledge
it.
is lost, yeah.
Right. Or at least the who did what knowledge,
Right.
you know.
And I could certainly ask the Conservation Commission if they had much to do with this and.
Isla, I mean, those folks, you
Yeah.
know, they've been working on this for, all this business for like 20 years. So those are the people that you want to get.
And if we, and you know, say if the Conservation Commission had ownership of this, it would be just like maintaining the trails at Walter Newton. That would be their responsibility, and they would continue to do that, so.
Right, Walter Newton, for sure.
Does that help you, Tara? Do you have?
So I put long and ongoing, because your point is good, that once it's rebuilt, somebody needs to maintain it. Yeah. So maybe everybody wants to read the natural heritage tasks.
Would you have a spare copy of that?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask what dark sky pollution is? I've never heard that term.
It's light.
Like pollution, yeah.
You know, like when you're driving on 93 and you look over, you see Plymouth, and then you see pink. It's not dark skies. It's when lighting isn't,
Directed downward.
yeah, contained and directed downward. It obliterates the stars.
So it's the same thing as light pollution.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this,
Do they still have that spotlight that shines straight up in the air around the clock tower?
I'm not sure, but I know I get blinded by the field house when I get on the interstate to go home. It's like, a lot of brightness.
Should we do one page at a time on this, or?
well, I think
All
it's good to read them
Okay.
all through so you can talk about what's missing too. Which ones may go well together.
So is there a distinction between natural resources and natural heritage? Or is it
All right.
one part of the other, or?
I think it's semantics, but that was what, was decided at that meeting, was to have historic, natural, and cultural resources and chunk it up this way. I don't think it makes a difference.
Well, it seems to me it reflects pretty accurately what people's responses to the survey were, certainly.
Yeah, and again, this is working with what was in the last plan, making the changes discussed at the roundtable, and then some more changes based on the survey.
Yeah, we do have, I'm sorry, we're not going through this yet.
And you want to be sure that it supports what you have in the zoning.
Well, right, yeah,
Right.
that's what I was gonna
You
make
don't want to,
mention of, yeah.
you don't want to take something out because it's already in the zoning.
Yeah.
Because the zoning has to be backed up.
Hmm.
Comments?
On number 1, I think we already have that. And the natural resource inventory.
We do, but it's very old.
Okay,
I mean, not
it is
very,
very
it's
old.
10 years old.
Yeah, it is very old, and I don't know natural resources whether they change that much, but it does seem like it could be more complete when I've looked at it.
Would have been really helpful to have in my hands the last 2 years while I'm working on your master plan. I've never seen it.
Total
It's
sentence.
really.
It's John Severance. Did it for us 2005. Sure, I mentioned that. Sorry. Didn't I lend it to you when it came back?
No, you want me to the airport plan?
Yeah, no, I know, and the tax disc, but oh, I've got it.
Is this the? There was a group. I thought it was 2 people out at Littleton. I
Yeah,
think.
the
Yeah,
Whitefield
that
Watershed to
was on
Wildlife, yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have a job?
Yes, but if I leave, are you going to assign me another task?
But can I borrow it again
Yeah,
if you already
yeah,
did
I'll
it?
go get it.
Yeah.
I think what happened,
Then I can reword this appropriately.
I think I had to get another disc, because we couldn't find the disc.
I'm not-
We had a
I know
report.
I've never had it
No,
on a
I've got
disc.
a disc.
You have to keep on thinking of things for Sharon to run down to get.
Yeah, so I'll adjust that language anyway. Let's go to the next.
Chris, do you remember if that inventory had aquifers on it?
I don't remember if they specifically. I don't think it does. I don't think it does. It talks about watersheds, and of course wetlands.
The reason I'm asking is because, it says a lot of the other goals, involve protecting groundwater resources and, development and so on. So identifying aquifers would be,
Mm-hmm.
I think I did that on one of your land use meetings. That's easy, yeah. That's easy to put in.
Yeah, I talked to somebody at State Planning Office about aquifer mapping, and they weren't, I'm trying to remember what she said.
We didn't have a copy of the disc, so I got that when I first got here because I
Did
could
we say
access it.
Available?
That would have saved me some
I'm sorry.
more. Good to have
I
that.
remember, at the planning meeting last summer in Concord, I remember asking one of the state water people, can I get a aquifer recharge map for the town of Plymouth?
Oh, boy.
And I
It's
think
like,
the answer was no.
Well, it's on granite.
Yeah?
Well, aquifers, though.
I tried that several years ago, all the way to USGS in DC, and it went round and round and round. It was
Why?
horrendous. They're actual maps,
Oh, the paper
USGS.
map. They are paper maps. But,
USGS maps.
but now it's on granite.
Now it is, yeah,
Yeah.
but in the day, it,
So anyway, my specific question to them was, to identify recharge areas for existing aquifers, and the answer was no from the state, but maybe the data's there somewhere on GIS, but
Well, all of the stratified drift aquifers
Right.
were mapped, I don't want to say the 80s, but it might have been,
I thought it was earlier.
was it?
Okay,
It
so-
started in the 70s,
70s,
but
yeah.
I think the last ones maybe were done
USGS,
after
because
I came.
we really, really wanted that information.
So anyway, as far as, planning and development, it'd be good, nice to know where the aquifer recharge areas are in towns, before.
And they didn't map, literally the recharge areas, but they mapped where the stratified drift
Right.
aquifers are that have the higher potential
Right.
for public water supply. That might have been the kind of semantic.
I guess we've seen those when they were, dealing with assault, off 93. And DOT was showing this map of, the aquifer, with the whole area of, and they had a real detailed map.
Really pretty invaluable to have. I wish we did.
With the corporate extension of Woodsville. You go up there with your tax map number and they'll give you a computer printout of everything about your property.
Anyway, so, I don't know, just something that would be nice to have in an inventory somewhere, or an overlay.
Well, if we do another natural resources inventory, is that something they could?
I'll just print it out. It's 5 minutes.
Okay.
If you don't want like a fancy legend and
No,
sources
she's,
and all that. but just-
NCC's got
just the
GIS
content.
capacity, we don't, even printer-wise.
So short term then. You're gonna do it in 5 minutes?
I'll bring it next time. Really short.
Yeah, that would be super.
Well, I thought I did put it on the development suitability maps that we went through when meetings we talked about land use, but I'll look, maybe.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't.
Where are you guys at?
I would just,
Still reading?
yeah. So number one, we could just do one just like that, and you'll have a win as soon as you adopt the plan, that one's done.
Some things like that are great. Let's get a couple of
Aaron
those.
can say, done,
Ask.
check it
All you
off.
gotta do is ask.
And do you think that is adequate, or did you think we should update that?
Oh,
I don't think there's
I'll look at it
huge,
when we'll
huge
talk.
changes. No, I think it's fairly reasonable. I mean, to update it, that was, I don't know, $7,000-8,000 contract, so, yeah.
but I'll go through it and tell you if there's new data on it.
I don't think there's a lot. I mean, I don't think our landscape has changed that much.
No, and, I mean, a couple of things that change is like those, all the information exists, like the wildlife corridors that.
Oh, yeah, no,
just
it's
came
all
out.
here and there, right, yeah.
Right, there's information in the wildlife action plan that
right,
wasn't available
yeah.
yet.
But we can use all that, like, that's something the Conservation Commission should rely on more, and now that we're starting to do this conservation easement
Right,
initiative.
I just have one copy, but we can get other copies out, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all I had was a printout on a dinged-up old printout, and I was like, where's the disc? You had to get another one.
Wildlife habitat changes.
Mm. Eugene, in terms of dark sky, we try to incorporate that in our site plan review. I don't know if you, can't remember if we've had applications that required, since you were here
This
on
is
the board, but I
Isn't Walmart the big one that couldn't?
Yeah.
Worded though, it should say, and that's a bad thing, I just left there from last one. It should say to maintain clean water, unpolluted air, dark skies, right? Native wildlife
Yeah,
population.
not dark sky pollution, yeah.
Right, I mean, let's make it all the same.
yeah, we're not opting to maintain dark sky pollution. We're
Right, that's just,
not have it.
it's confusing, but maybe, yeah. It's dark skies you want to maintain.
Do you have any gravel pits that are within the town boundaries?
There used to be.
Probably just Boulder Point, and that's more of a processing yard. Now, I don't think there's excavation per se.
Must be like, personalized gravel pits. We had one on our property on Reservoir Road. Somebody hauled off gravel. Yeah, I'm sure there's quite a few.
Commercially, I don't think so.
Right.
The last bullet on number 2, I started rewording that and didn't finish. It should say minimizing the impact of development on the landscape. I was trying to get rid of the word in there. Obviously, if there's development, you're not preserving the landscape. I think these are probably all ongoing, except we'll fix number 1 to be, not projects, these are policies.
Number 7 might be something that needs to be done rather than ongoing.
Yeah, no, I just on the first page.
Oh, okay.
Let me get to that. Yeah, that's more of a project. Short, medium, or long?
On that, I think that should be short. I mean, because I guess I'm thinking in terms of Conservation Commission.
Maybe, like New Hampshire Fish and Game might be the most logical partner for that. Versus conservation organization. That's kind of a vague, who's that really? But New Hampshire Fish and Game did the wildlife action plan. That's really the resource for the strategies too.
Yeah. We're working with the Fish and Game right now, identifying wildlife.
So should that number 6 be maybe reworded to say support the efforts of local, regional, and statewide conservation organizations to identify and protect important properties.
Yeah. Number 14 was a totally new one, but from Roundtable, and I didn't really find a good place to put it. It's just kind of hanging there at the end, not a place. Maybe somebody has an idea on that.
Well, the issue's come up before, and the selectmen, I believe, have kind of asked the Conservation Commission to take that on as a task.
Yeah. There's also a couple of identified people at the university.
Yeah, yep.
I know some high school students that are inventorying, like knotweed and such.
Loose strife.
So should schools go in there?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, PSU made a presentation, I think, to the select board, didn't they?
Yeah.
On some of these
But also-
issues.
But even like PRHS too, for that matter.
Yeah, we do some. I think both. PSU.
How would that, so for actually managing invasive species, ultimately, that's going to involve some physical
Eradication.
work, and, you know, like the town, somebody, you know, the Conservation Commission, you know, probably isn't going to rent a piece of, say, machinery to dig out invasive species somewhere.
Well, you wouldn't be like digging out knotweed anyway, right? Unfortunately, yeah, then, well, it's kind of like we're digressing, I guess, but, you know, the only good treatment is like Roundup.
Yeah, which isn't a good treatment.
No, even like, you know, in the ESZ, there's a ton of knotweed.
It's hopeless.
And now that they're saying that Roundup is, you know, parts of it is carcinogenic too and stuff. Great.
Yeah, the only real way to deal is, you have to mow knotweed for about 5 or 6 years.
You know, mowing tends to like, you know,
And
knock
that
them
will
to pieces too.
will
though.
keep it down. And turf grass on top of knotweed will also help keep it down, but it's very expensive to keep at it.
And so that's what I mean, like, so somebody, like the Conservation Commission is gonna need the help of someone else besides like someone from the town highway department or something to.
So the state uses Roundup. They wait for it like to flower or something like that, and then just like, you know, knock it out with Roundup. In fact, they can't mow it. You know, they are mandated to like go around, you know, patches of knotweed.
Why?
Because it
So
spreads.
that's,
Because it
the
spreads
mowers, yeah, the mowers tend to.
It's tubers, isn't it? Or it's the root system's
There's
pretty.
like, there's several ways it can, you know, propagate.
Right.
Pieces of stems and roots.
And that kind of education with road crews, with your own road crews, can go a long way towards stopping the spread of some of these things.
I think, I think the Conservation's Commission's function might be to educate landowners on what the species are and how they can control them without using Roundup or whatever. I mean, there are non-chemical ways to do it that you can encourage landowners to undertake. I know Alex, you know, tries to mow the knotweed down by the community garden once a year, at least knock it, you know, from 8 feet down to 6 inches.
And the road crew too. And that's how it gets on my property. Is
Gets spread
when they-
by-
Yeah,
When
it's
my
a-
town mows the roadside, they bring the poison parsnip from the neighboring field.
And actually, like, Cummings Hill Road now has it because when they did that construction, they brought in fill, and that's how,
That's
but,
what it is, it's contaminated fill.
so I wonder if someone other than just if there should be someone else as a, what do we, responsibility.
Does DES have a invasive species?
They do, but I
Program.
believe there's just, Bill, isn't there just one person for the whole state? One point person at DES for this?
Maybe.
It's not a lot of resources, I don't think. But, yeah, the highway, maybe an educational seminar for highway.
It's gonna be a mixed message though, because, depending on which highway you're talking about, like, on 93, they spray it with
Oh,
Roundup.
no, I meant our
Well, no, but I'm thinking on 93, they'll spray it with Roundup and knock, individual patches out by refusing to mow it, but just spray it with Roundup. But on 3, when they were doing edging last year, they were just like knocking everything down with mowers. So I don't quite get.
BMPs, yeah, I don't know.
It's the time when they mow it, they have to put that chemical on it at a certain time of the year before it has to regenerate.
That could be. So yeah, they were knocking it out in the fall, I think.
Yeah, 'cause
I
we
know
have-
they have to wait for it to flower.
We were talking to the crews, they
Perfect.
were
Okay.
doing a patch, they were doing test patches of it.
So I guess we'll find out in the spring. When it's effective.
Unfortunately. One of the first things to blossom and grow.
It's
that
edible.
stuff. Is it really?
When it tastes like rhubarb when it just comes up.
It looks like it's that type of
We
a
should
plant,
encourage
yeah.
people. On
Go out and eat it.
So to get back to this, on number 8, develop an integrated natural resource protection strategy. That's something that does not exist, as far as I know, on the years I've been on the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, and that's something from the last plan I thought was good. I left it pretty intact, I think.
So that would be something that maybe needs to be taken up by the Conservation Commission, and so I'm just thinking of as far as time frame on that one. That may be a medium strategy.
And it's pretty closely tied with number 9. Since
Yes,
It really is
yes.
a public education program.
Yes, yeah.
And a lot of these I put town administration, it may, and some I put that because people are coming to you, Sharon, first, for a permit, and that's your chance to say, have you thought about moving the house over here?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And,
no,
and
yeah.
also,
yeah.
the town administrator, if there's cooperation needed with things like sending the highway crew for training, right? You need that cooperation. So I think it makes sense to just put them in as a partner.
Yeah, I mean, I do try to keep a heightened awareness of that in this building, and then there's a lot of preliminary development conversations that go on before it goes to you folks, so we try to steer them in the right direction, at the outset.
And the town administrator too, I mean, that wasn't, I don't think that was really articulated in the last plan, but you need that cooperation with a lot of these things. And then 10's a kind of policy, so it would be ongoing. 11, 12, and 13, right? Those are policies.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Didn't end up with anything in the long term except that heritage plan. But we'll see, type that in and see what you want to do with it.
One thing that I'd like to see is try to figure out is that once this, and I don't know if this should be part of the master plan itself or something separate from the master plan, but once this document's completed and put away somewhere, someone needs to come back on a consistent basis you know, whether it's once a year, once every 2 years, and say, you know, here's, and our agenda this week is to look at the master plan and look at this item and see what's been done about it.
Well, it needs to come back to this board maybe twice a year.
Well, then, what,
Six, or
maybe,
a year.
Certainly
or
once a
something.
year, you
Yeah.
know, when you're doing your organizing after elections or whatever, have it be part of that, of like, what should our priorities be
Yeah.
this year?
I think it needs to be somehow worked into the agenda automatically,
Yeah.
because once this thing is done and goes away, the next board, when we're all gone, they're gonna be clueless,
Or you
right?
could even just make it a standing item on the
Well, yeah,
workshop.
yeah.
meetings once
I
a
mean,
year.
you want to revisit it because there's two parallel tracks. You know, there's stuff going on aside from or related to this while this document sits here. So you want to go back and check and say, okay, not only from this initiative forward, but this has happened, this is happening, this is happening. How does what has been happening in the last year apply to this? And then the inverse is, well, if nothing has been addressed, how can we do it? So it's a two-pronged approach, I think.
So I think this isn't, maybe this isn't part of the master plan itself, but this is something the board should do,
This is implementation.
that we need, it has to be part of our daily, our monthly operation, that every month we address, during the work session, we look at the master plan and we address some aspect of it or something like that. Anyway.
And the Conservation Commission should definitely do the same, and it's actually even more straightforward for them. I mean, this is like a blueprint for what they should be doing. This thing is awesome, and you know, we'll use it now. We should have been using it before, but we will use this.
Okay, so we can, you know, so the board can work on that separately and try to figure out how to get that into the program on a codified, automatic basis, like doing the attendance every week. Read aloud from the master plan.
Story time.
Okay, anything else, Tara, from us that you need?
No.
Okay, any new business to,
We're gonna have to, in April when we meet, what is it, April 6th, 4th, 6th?
I'll see you on the sixth.
We have to, I beg your pardon?
I'll see you on.
Oh, good. We have to elect officers. You have to elect officers.
oh, okay. And do we have anybody's terms that are coming, people coming to terms,
Yeah,
so to
that's when
speak?
I'll have to, I'm gonna go on vacation, hopefully. No, I must go on vacation, or I won't be back.
You are going on.
Yeah, so I'll look at that. I don't think we have a lot of folks re-upping, but we'll wanna figure that out.
And Brian, are you gonna, like, get out of here, or are you gonna stick with us until you find your replacement, or?
There's a singular select board rep on the planning board. And on Monday.
And an alternate.
And an alternate as
Yeah.
well, yeah. And on Monday, we're going to be, looking at assignments.
Yeah, the Board of Selectmen assigns representatives to the various boards and whatever, so that's why Bill's here, and then Mike Ahern
Right, I'm just
currently
asking
is
Brian
the-
if he's gonna
I
do.
have one person in mind to take my
Okay.
seat.
All right.
I have not asked her yet.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
we're hopeful.
I will
Yeah.
work on that for the board.
Okay.
And I've thoroughly enjoyed my time here. So I thank you.
Thank you. Careful, you might be appointed
And now
as
you
a
can
selectman's
give
rep.
great perspective to the higher reaches.
Great perspective. Well, Bill does that already.
You don't have to buff me out. Okay. you gotta
Okay,
go.
any other new business tonight? Any comments from the public?
Nope.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I don't know. So, Frank, did you bring that in, or does Sharon
No, I
have
have
that? But that was very helpful. I appreciate, bringing that forward.
Yes, thank you for your institutional memory.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we're done. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tara.